Hey everyone, Gamma here. I hope you're all doing well. Not a chronicle this week. I'm taking a swing, having a go at sort of what I would guess is a more opinion-based video. I know a lot of the advice I give and a lot of the other things I talk about are all rooted in my own opinions, but this is perhaps more not what you would categorize as a rant video, but this is perhaps one where people might be slightly more inclined to disagree with what I'm saying, or ones where there's probably a few different ways of thinking about it. It's one that I feel quite strongly about, and I'm sure that viewing this you probably will do as well. It's not going to upset anyone. It's not that intense. It's just something that I've been seeing a fair bit of on the internet that I wanted to have a conversation about, because I find it upsetting, and rather than just assuming that being upset is an appropriate replacement for having an argument and a retort to what I'm seeing online, it made more sense for me to have a conversation, explain why I think what I'm seeing is wrong, and articulate in a way that hopefully we're all on the same page as well. So I've been seeing a lot of stuff online. So I've seen a couple of posts and a few threads under. So I'm predominantly active on Instagram, but I see a lot of opinions being sort of put around about sort of advocating for alternative medicine as a better replacement than treatments like radiotherapy and chemotherapy. So particularly, so one of the threads that I was reading the other day, it was quite a long one with a lot of people arguing. So I didn't take part in that argument because I sort of wanted to read it and observe, and then take some time to sort of like what do I think, and then I'd have a conversation about it here. So the thread was basically outlining how the writer didn't believe that chemotherapy or radiotherapy worked at all, and they were quite vague with what their actual like what their explanation was for people surviving treatment and cancer in general. And I think like what I could sort of glean was they were of the opinion that I think either cancer would always relapse if you went through these treatments, or that there was some big conspiracy to sort of there's a big government conspiracy. Nobody really survives when they do chemotherapy. So this is me coming out as like a government plant. I've been feeding you false information this whole time. Obviously not. No. Which I've never understood the idea that things like this come from there's a big bad hidden in the shadows that sort of secretly that has malicious intent that's sort of overseeing these things. Like with vaccines were developed by a gentleman who was at a farm. It wasn't like a big scheme. It was a guy who observed trends of people being immune to illnesses on a farm. So I can go into like explaining like that whole story at one point. I'd have to get out like my GCSE history books, because I did medicine through time, and I can give like a general outline of it. But my point is, I don't think there's like a big conspiracy there, and I think it's I think that's the natural disposition of everyone that isn't the case. But I think I've seen it to the point enough times where I feel like I want to talk about it. And in that thread, there's a lot of people advocating for alternative medicines instead, so that the only way you have a chance of surviving cancer, as I was able to do, in their belief, was through the use of alternative medicine. So I guess, what is alternative medicine? Alternative medicine is where you go down, I guess, what people call the more natural route to treating an illness. So you might, through maybe the use of like herbs or other like naturally occurring things, rather than like clinical man-made chemicals and treatments and surgeries to dealing with illnesses. And I think a lot of what I read online, and I think it is the case with the way that people communicate on a lot of places online, is that people tend to, I think moderates tend to get rounded up into the extremes. And what I mean by that is, rather than people saying what I'm going to say, people tend to either be arguing, and they did in a couple of the cases I've seen, that it's alternative medicine or it's treatments like chemotherapy. And I'm going to come out and say that there is a place for both, if you have cancer, you will likely need things like chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and that all depends on your illness and how it progresses. And so I know that in my case, my doctors had meetings every week or two, every time I had clinic, talking about my progress and what direction to take with my treatment. It's not something that it's a very unique and personal journey. And alternative medicines, or what I've got in my notes is I've got natural medicines, but I'm gonna say that they can help. So I've got written here, so they're great for helping you treat minor things. So for instance, like if you've got a blocked sinus, you might get some lavender on a tissue. I've got some albus oil for a blocked nose I've got at the moment. If you've got a sore throat, you might drink lemon and honey. That's like a good natural way of addressing your illness. But if you have, it can't be like a complete replacement for traditional medicine. So like they say, red meat is a good way of bringing up your iron levels, but when I was anemic, I needed a blood transfusion because my oxygen levels weren't high enough. And yes, I did use that as an excuse to eat a lot of red meat because I'm quite fond of it, but it's not a replacement. Things as well. So I took steroids to manage my immune system. Bell peppers are good for your immune system. I think the point of what I'm getting at here is that natural medicines and alternative medicines are a good way to supplement your treatment, and they're a good way of helping you live a healthy lifestyle. Like living a healthy lifestyle is something that we should all try and do, cancer or not. And eating healthy foods and using herbs and spices to look after yourself, that's a good thing that you should do no matter what. But so the example that I get seen a lot, that doesn't make sense, that I see getting thrown around a lot is about turmeric, which is a spice that I cook with quite frequently. It's sort of, in some channels that I've seen, it's sort of praised as a complete alternative to chemotherapy. It is a completely natural cure to your cancer, and I would, and that's rooted in the fact that there is some evidence that turmeric can kill cancerous cells. So what I would tell you is, if you're going through treatment or if you have cancer, yes, eat turmeric, but you're treating. Yes, you might kill off a few cancer cells and slow the progression of cancer, but you'll need surgery to remove the tumour. If it metastasizes or gets in your bloodstream, it can get away from that part of your body and spread around. You're not going to address the root cause by eating turmeric. So you can see there that there's an opportunity for, and what I would advocate for is, you would need, turmeric's not going to stop recurrence either. So I see an opportunity there for a level of harmony. So you can use these alternative medicines as a way of helping, manage a healthy lifestyle and help supplement your treatment. But they're in no way a replacement, because yes, they can help with certain things, but they're not going to treat illness in the same way that things like chemotherapy does. So I read an article recently by, I'm trying to think of the website. I have notes on it. I'm trying not to read from my notes. So it was the story of a woman. It was written by an oncologist for a website called. There's a lot of uncertainty around the media, and I would say that, as far as I can tell, the article was written by a real oncologist. So, and it tells the story of a woman who is simply called Ruth, who is diagnosed with early stage breast cancer, has a decent prognosis, and the chances are that if she goes through her chemotherapy and her prescribed treatment, then it's very likely that she will be able to go on to live a normal life without any sign of recurrence. So she decided to not go through with that, and she left America to travel to Mexico and began seeing a doctor there who would prescribe her to eat things like turmeric, to do, I think it was water cleansing, drink like healing poultices, eat a lot of certain types of fruits, and making sure they have like big doses of vitamins. And in the end, so she would eventually return to the oncologist that writes this article, and by that point their cancer had metastasized so severely to the point that she had gone terminal, and she unfortunately passed away not long after returning to her original doctor. And I think that the important thing to keep in mind is I would describe myself as politically conservative but culturally libertarian. So I'm strongly of the belief that people should be able to make decisions about their own healthcare. So if you do wish to pursue like the path of alternative medicine as a well-informed individual, so if you have all the information available and you decide that's the route you want to take, then you should be empowered to do so, because chemotherapy doesn't work 100% of the time. I'm here to tell you that I'm not a government plant. I'm not, I'm not fake. I'm not I did chemotherapy and it sucked. It really sucked. It was one of the worst things I've ever lived through in my life. It was terrible. And I'll always carry that with me, that pain and that mental anguish from it. But going back, just because of that, I would never ever look to replace that with anything else, because I'm here, I'm still alive. I had a couple of sessions of chemotherapy and my cancer shrank from the size of a tennis ball to the size of a tick. And that was tangible. I could feel that. That wasn't because I ate like a mixture of vitamins and spices and fruit and a glass and drank that. That was medicine that's been developed and refined and perfected over many, many years. And that's why you see the rates of cancer survival going up, because we're further refining our treatments and we're making things like proton beam therapy more widely available. And because of that, people are getting better prognoses, and that's as well because we're getting better at identifying cancer at an early stage as well. And more people are getting better and surviving. And I think that what's important there is that it works. That's the way of putting it. I mean, I wouldn't be here without it. And to think that there are people that would go online, and I don't know if it's through ignorance or through malice. It's one thing to, because I think that alternative medicine certainly has a place in your treatment. I've on this channel before advocated for the use of cryotherapy. So I always talk about how eating cold foods and using ice compresses on the throat around the time you have chemotherapy causes vasoconstriction. Less chemotherapy gets to tissues in your throat, and it reduces instances of inflammation, and it helps prevent ulceration as well. And I saw tangible effects from that. I believe it helped, along with staying hydrated around the time I had chemotherapy. But I also had prescribed medications, and that in unison helped me overcome that side effect. And even then, I needed to go to the hospital on occasion because it didn't work. It's not foolproof, and that's why I think that neither side is foolproof. But I would certainly advocate for trust your doctors, and chemotherapy and radiotherapy suck, but they'll keep you alive. And using alternative medicines to help you live a healthy lifestyle, to put you in a better position to deal with treatment, is certainly a good thing to do. But you should have all the information. You should know that in all likelihood it's not going to work as an effective replacement. If anything, it will work as a decent supplement to help you cope better with treatment. And I won't speak to conversations I had with people who tried to follow that path, because those are private conversations, but I have had conversations with people who tried that and it didn't work, going down the alternative medicine path. So I would say I'm of the belief that it doesn't work as a replacement, but people should be encouraged to gather what information they can, as much as they can, and to make decisions about their healthcare. And I would say that from my experience and my knowledge, that traditional medicine is how you survive, and alternative medicine is how you support yourself and live a healthy lifestyle to deal with treatment better. I think I've said that a couple of times, but that's probably the core of what I'm saying. And this isn't to say that I have any disdain for people who knowingly choose to walk the path of alternative medicine. Perhaps if you're not happy with the way that medicines like chemo or radiotherapy have worked in the past and you want to try something else and you're well informed, that's fine. And if you want to have a conversation saying, listen, this worked for me, this is what I'm trying, this is what I would recommend, then more power to you. In a free society, that's what we should empower people to do. But when I see a lot of people online that give the appearance of talking too confidently about things they don't know about, or purposely trying to misinform people, that upsets me deeply. And I think that my advice would be to somebody who, if you're also seeing a lot of this, is first and foremost, whenever you're unsure, confide in the knowledge of medical professionals, not people like me or anyone you see on the internet. This is just me giving my 2 cents about it. But to consult with many people and make a reasoned decision based on multiple sources of information, not just from the first one you find or the one you immediately find the most compelling. Just gather knowledge and make what decisions work best for you. But I would say that there's a reason our go-to is to give people chemo and radiotherapy, and that's because it works a lot of the time. And when it doesn't, that's not because it's a hoax or because there's a malicious conspiracy to harm the population. That's because people are unlucky. But I'm of the strong belief, that we'll eventually reach a point where no one dies of cancer. And I hope that I hope to see it in my lifetime. I think that'd be amazing. I think that'd be brilliant. And part of that comes from looking out for each other and making sure we're not led astray by false information. I think that's everything I wanted to say on it. I'll probably watch this back and see if there's anything else. I can always make a part 2, depending on the level of engagement. We can have a further conversation about it. The Gamma Stories Instagram page is always open if you want to have a conversation, or if you're worried about something or just want to have a chat. If you did enjoy the video, I will firstly thank you for making it so far. A like and a subscribe, anything to assist the channel algorithmically, is very much appreciated. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video, which will probably be a chronicle. So take care everyone, have a good week, and I'll see you soon.